We're Batman at 89. Hello and welcome once again to Batminute 89, the podcast where we analyze, scrutinize, and lead every minute of Tim Burton's Batman film around like a sack of old potato covered in mud and nursing a sprained ankle. I am one of your hosts, Niall McGowan.
And hello, listeners. I am John Parker. I'm trying to do an Alfred. I'm failing miserably. I am John Parker, the other host.
And once again, this week we are joined by our guest, famed, acclaimed, and deranged accordionist, Kit Flemons.
I have only ever been described with one of those adjectives before. Hello, I'm Kit.
Can you listeners guess which one it is?
But we're here today to talk about minute 32. And if you thought minute 31 was a roller coaster, whoo, let me tell you, the things that go down.
Oh boy.
Minute 32 begins with Bruce and Vicki thankfully leaving the vast, cavernous date room they were in. And it ends with Vicki Vale telling Bruce what she used to get up to in the summer with her grandfather. So, let's get into this, okay?
Dig in.
So, I don't know if she would just skip on past the, Bruce says to her, basically, let's get out of here, and she has a relieved yes. And they both...
Although, I thought one thing about that, right? Not to ruin your flow. He says, do you want to get out of here? And he stands up to leave before she even answers. It's a bit presumptuous, like, he can just tell a woman what to do. Come with me.
Yeah,
I'm going to take you somewhere else.
It would have been great if she said, no, I'm fine. He was just like, oh. I had to sit back down again.
They do also take their mosquito soup with them as they leave.
Yes, they do. But when it then cuts to the next scene of the meeting, it's long gone.
It's scrumptious. Surely Alfred should have been the one carrying them. I mean, maybe I'm being far too hard on the servants, but if I were a billionaire, I thought the whole point is to, never lift a finger. But here they are carrying their own soup.
It could be more like he's so desperate to get out of there. Like if he had to ring his little bell, I was like, Alfred, can you come move the soup? It'll be like, it's gonna be another 5 minutes. He's like, no, let's just go right now. Like,
well, we cut obviously, as we said, to them eating in another room with Alfred. But I was thinking maybe, because looking at Alfred there, he looks like he's been given the night off, or he's in his downtime, because he hasn't got the tie on, his shirt's undone a little bit,
rocking a cardigan, like it's
he's prepared for his sort of grandfatherly role, isn't he? This scene, as part of his grand plan to get these two lovebirds together, he knows that if he's just a butler, he's adding to Bruce's slightly arrogant billionaire attitude and air. So I think he needs to humanize Bruce. So he's put on his best, granddad jumper, and he's prepared his anecdotes.
He's got a pocket full of Werther's originals.
Yeah, and he's eating the same food as them. It's obviously we're all family here.
Here's a question I had about that. What do you think that food is? Because it doesn't look fancy. Like, to me, that looks like maybe Alfred's made it.
Well, see, I've looked into this. All I could see is it looks like there's a piece of like battered chicken.
I was thinking because Alfred being English, I was thinking maybe a battered cod.
Yes, because there's lemon there that's often had with fish.
Yeah, but then this also seems to be spaghetti. I just thought that's a very odd one, and I looked it up, and apparently there are meals that involve chicken and spaghetti and lemon, and so I was like, oh, maybe that's what it is. But
what about the peas and the salad?
Oh no,
that's very English of him.
The peas were in there as well. Yeah, it was. I remember thinking that's an odd fusion of flavors, but it could be that he's just gone like, oh, I'll just get the fish and chips on, sir, and then Vicky's like, I don't like chips. Well, I've got some pasta here, miss. Like that could have been.
Yeah. Or maybe they don't have guests a lot, so maybe he doesn't keep a lot of food in, and he's gone the kind of student method of what have we got in the cupboards. Yeah. We've got some chicken, we've got some pasta. Chuck it all in a pan. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Your pot noodle is ready, Master Wayne.
I could actually see Wayne eating a pot noodle. It's quick. It's on the go. He can eat it and
you don't even
get
need
on
a
with his
fork.
day.
He could just kind of slobber it down his wipe clean bat suit and
It's not as if he'd be the one wiping it clean either, to be fair. It'd be more.
Yeah.
But we get this. It's one of the few shots as well of eating food that isn't off-putting, because you usually, for some reason, when you ever see someone's half-finished food, it always looks a bit disgusting. It's always a bit like, ugh, because it's all cut up and everything's meshed in together, and it's like in I remember in Heather's, the jump cut to like them scraping the lunch plate into the bin.
Oh,
And all the stuff on there is probably like, if that was on a table, it'd be probably pretty nice. But the fact you're seeing it scraped together into a bin, it's like, ugh, it's disgusting.
Well, in a masterpiece of set design, the food is all still neatly proportioned off. Neatly portioned off. The peas are on their own, the spaghetti's on their own, the meat, nothing's touching. There's one pea on a lemon, you can see, and everything else is very separate. So that makes it tasty. It's not all mushed together, as you say. It's not.
Yeah. And the presentation as well, because I think this looks genuine. This looks like they've had a meal together, they've had a drink, they've had a nice chat. It looks like they've had a fun evening. It's the way it's sold.
The wine
to you.
is empty.
It is, and there's another bottle of wine with a bit taken out of it in the background, which I also thought was more realistic. Because if there's three of you, you're not having one bottle of wine. You're going to dip into one or two, maybe three.
I was wondering as well in this, because I'm assuming this is Alfred's private quarters, because it seems to be like it's very small and it's very like, it's just like, this is the little house, the little butler house that he has himself off in the. But I thought it must have been like, if he wasn't, as we theorized, in Bruce Wayne's ear saying, "Come on, bring her here," like if it is Bruce just showing up, he's just like, "Alfred, can we eat with you?" He must have been like, "You are such a loser! Like, it's just, you're bringing your date to meet essentially your dad, and as the first date. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
you can't do this yourself. You're so out of touch with the people that you're just like, no, I'll bring it. Oh, it could be that this is again part of Bruce's plan of like, this is how you charm them. This is like, you make it seem like you're a big cavernous. Oh, I'm a millionaire. And then he's like, no, I'll bring her to my butler, who's essentially my dad. And then it'll be a bit more like, no, I'm a man of the people. Like, I'm just like you. I'm just like you. So,
and a family man.
At risk of awakening the ancient enmity between Batman and Superman, and I presume Bat fans and super fans, or
losers.
I looked up Superman's butler assistant.
Superman had a butler?
Yeah, well, not quite, but it's more interesting than that. According to whichever Wikipedia I was frantically researching when trying to find something interesting to talk about, Superman has a robot called Kelex.
Oh my god, yes.
Who came from Krypton in one of those things that comic books seem to do, where they can't think of anything interesting and something magically happens. But the Fortress of Solitude was somehow found its way to Earth, complete with, robot kryptonic butler. And Kelex is a floating robot with sort of claws for hands, who was put there as Superman's butler. And if that wasn't much more exciting than having an old man, he was programmed in one comic or one episode or however it works he was programmed to speak slang and call Superman Big Blue, and occasionally sling back the reply, "Yo mama."
Oh yes.
So I think that if instead of Alfred in this scene, we had Kelex, we would have had a lot more to talk about.
I'm thinking like that could have explained why, like, if they had put Kelex in Batman versus Superman, that would have explained why Bruce Wayne hated Superman so much, because he sees this really cool robot and he's just like, Alfred's not that cool. How come I can't have that? And then he's like burning through Wayne tech money trying to build this robot, and they're like, we just can't do it. Like, we can't program a robot to say "yo mama" back to you.
It's just impossible with the technology of today.
If only.
But it doesn't end there. There's more to Kelex's story.
How could there possibly be more?
Well, Alfred's story here we see is the time that he injured his ankle and had to, be ridden back on a horse.
Oh yeah, laughing about Bruce breaking his ankle.
Kelex is once trapped inside the Fortress of Solitude with xenomorphs and predators at the same time in Superman versus Xenomorphs versus Predators or something.
Someone needs to send this into the show. Listeners, get us that.
They're all in prison together, and I think it might have been the last time you heard from Kelex, actually. But
no,
Kelex was in the fortress with aliens and predators. I mean, that makes for a good story.
So what you're saying is Kelex is going to feature in the new Justice League movie, right? That's what you were getting at.
I think, and then it's the Justice League having to fight predators and xenomorphs, and then at the end, Kelex shows up and he's like, "I'm back, baby."
I'd watch the Kelex film all on its own, really. A wisecracking slang hit.
Oh, you can imagine like the final blow at the end is like the predator's the last thing standing, and he's just like repeating back, that you are one ugly, and then Kelex just goes in for the final blow, and he just goes, "Yo, mama!" And it's an apocalyptic explosion, and then like Batman and Superman are both like, he was too young for this world,
I've already fallen in love with this character, and this is the first I've ever heard of him.
And you before I brought him up, you called them super losers.
Super losers. They're still super losers, but slightly elevated from where I previously thought they were. Although when you started that story, I thought he was going to be more like the robot in Rocky, which isn't quite as impressive.
I have never seen a single Rocky film.
You do yourself a favor. They are very good. You don't have to like boxing. In fact, it would probably help to know nothing about boxing to watch these movies.
How much is there about boxing to know? Is there just two people hitting each other? Is that?
Oh, apparently there's rules. I don't know. You're speaking to the wrong guy.
But anyway, I suppose we should get if we get to the minutes.
Oh yes,
because we do get Alfred's story, and for years I always assumed maybe I wasn't paying attention. I thought it was Bruce Wayne who had the sprained ankle. No, it's like no. It kind of changes the story for me because I was like, oh yeah, he tried teaching Bruce how to ride a horse, and Bruce fell off and sprained his ankle, and and he was crying and he's covered in mud. But now it's like Bruce was riding this horse about, and somehow, did he run over Alfred? Like, what happened?
I know, poor Alfred, he's been harassed his entire damn life. Even when this little piece of crap was a kid, he's been ruining Alfred's life.
It seems like now it's kind of like we had to sit through that whole awkward long table bit. It's like, let's go back a bit, replace that scene with more of Alfred's story. This is what I want to hear. Like, what happened?
Yeah, what happened? How did it occur with the horse? Because in my head, it's almost exactly as it plays out in Vanilla Ice's hit movie Cool as Ice, when he scares the woman he's trying to get with off a horse by revving his motorbike, and she flies off it, and somehow that's flirting.
Have you talked about that scene before? I'm sure I've never seen the film, but that's very familiar. You must.
I talk about Cool as Ice most days. So.
Yeah. It does stand to reason. It's quite we hang out a fair bit. It's quite likely that John has brought up the entirety of Cool as Ice and described you the whole film. So.
You've shown our podcast nepotism there by getting our friends on.
But I mean, that again, not to dwell on Cool as Ice too much though, but that's very in the vein of Prince and Purple Rain's method of flirting, of the whole bathe yourself in the he brings that woman out to like the lake, and he's just like, it's to say you should bathe in the waters of Lake Minnetonka, and she ends up stripping down in front of him, and he's just like, it's all getting pretty sensuous, and then she goes to jump into the water, and he's just like, wait, and then she jumps in, she's soaked, and he just goes, that ain't Lake Minnetonka, and just revs the bike and drives away, and it's just like, what an asshole. Yeah, but I guess like this is just the way of like, no, in the 80s, if you were a pop star and you had a bike, you were to everyone. And they loved you for it. They absolutely loved you for it. So
again, that's where I've been going wrong. Clearly, I'm not doing any of this stuff.
Vanilla Ice did work with disgraced polka star. I found his name. Look at that. He worked with this disgraced polka star to make a polka rap hit.
Oh yes,
that was not the hit it should have been.
Did it have a hip hop beat behind it? Because that would sell me on it right now.
Well, it was exactly as you'd hope for. It's a combination of Vanilla Ice and Jan Levin was his name. Huge in the American Polish community and friends with the Pope.
But how was he disgraced? Like, what happened to him?
That's a long and fascinating story. But he basically ran ran a Ponzi scheme among Polka fans.
Oh my god!
I mean, us
Those gullible Polka fans.
I mean, that does sound like something we want to get into, but at the same time, we should probably get back to talking
so
about Batman.
in your own time, watch The Man Who Would Be Polka King. It's
Oh
a
my
documentary all about.
I am 100% doing that, actually. Yeah.
Well, with regards to the minute,
Yeah.
if you look at Alfred, right, this is obscure. I may just be crazy. You feel free to slap me if I am. If you look at Alfred when he's talking, and you look to his left, there appears to be like a doorway or like the glass from the top of a door. What is that in the glass?
The silhouette of a skeleton.
It looks like the silhouette of a skeleton. Yeah. Exactly. What the hell?
Hey, Alfred's got some skeletons in his closet.
Oh. Like I was really confused. I thought this was something very supernatural. I was getting scared. I thought I was watching The Ring or something. Sorry, Ringu.
Batman versus the Ring. That's it.
Well, they did just make Sadako versus what's the character from Ju-on? So it was The Ring versus The Grudge. So Sadako versus whatever the Ju-on character is. So, the Japanese aren't afraid of doing nonsense films like that.
It's like they got a grudge. Someone ring the bell.
No.
Ring versus grudge.
I may also be seeing bats everywhere now that I was told to find information for this minute, and after last minute's funny cupboard with its batwing top.
Oh yeah.
The batwing motif is present even in Alfred's eyebrows. If you look, I think he has distinctly bat-shaped eyebrows, which might be,
oh my god,
part of his uniform. I think.
Well, Niall, I think to promote the show, we should be adopting this look.
Oh, yeah. See, if I had any... Because I know it was one of the things...
Had any eyebrows?
No, I know it was the thing, like, back when this came out, that, like, I know, like, Kevin Smith and stuff has talked about, like, oh, yeah, it was so big that people used to shave the bat symbol into their friggin' heads. Oh. And, like, I would be like, oh, if I had hair, I could totally do that. But no, I got nothing. I'd have to carve it into my head. It'd be horrible.
Well, I am balding, but I am clinging to enough that I could possibly do this.
But one thing I want to say before we move on with in any further parts of the minute is this whole horse riding story. Like, it won't be, but part of me wonders if this was supposed to be a knock at Sean Young. Because I don't know if you know, Kit, but like Sean Young was actually cast as Vicki Vale, and she was actually started principal photography and everything with her as Vicki Vale, and she actually injured herself in a horse riding accident. She broke her shoulder, and they had to get in Kim Basinger, who apparently they originally approached her with Vicki Vale. She didn't want to do it. They cast Sean Young, and then that happened, so they had to smooze Kim Basinger into it. But it seems a bit weird that because this whole scene isn't in the original script. This was added in later. So it just seems a bit like maybe they were just like, maybe they had some beef with Sean Young. It's like, yeah, it's what, we'll throw in a little horse riding bit there. That'll get her jimmies in a bunch. And then she was sitting watching the film. She's like, what the hell?
That's in poor taste, that, isn't it? That's not fair.
I mean, like, we know that Sean Young has a troubled history with Tim Burton since, because of the infamous story of her. Maybe one we'll get into with Batman Returns, but allegedly she so wanted the part that she showed up on the Warner Brothers lot dressed as Catwoman, and Tim Burton had to hide under his desk, which is it's a story that makes Tim Burton sound worse than Sean Young, to be fair. Because it was like,
well, Tim, if you want to dispute this story, get on the show. We'll have you anytime.
But I just thought that could potentially be, because again, as I said, like this whole, as you mentioned, John, this whole bit isn't in, it isn't in the original draft. Initially, he takes Vicki out on a boat, which is called Die Fledermaus, which is obviously, is translated as the bat, or actually quite literally as the flying mouse. And it's a Johann Strauss opera, which I always thought, and this is a little thing, so I researched this, and I thought, like, this is interesting, because it's tangential entirely, but I always thought that was the opera that Bruce has to leave in Batman Begins, and it turns out it's not. It's something called Mephistopheles, And apparently within Deflator Mouse, there is no bat at all. There's nothing to do with bats in it. So, and then, as we say, then like, it's a bit more of a fancy. Bruce ends up taking Vicki out to the opera. But the opera he goes to see is Rigoletto, which is actually translated, or it's not translated, but the character of Rigoletto is the jester. And you see what they're getting in there, because Rigoletto is the sad clown. This is like, well, we know what who we're going to get in the rest of the film. We got a big clown coming. Woo!
Hint, hint.
But I thought maybe this might have been, producer note then, because they had this whole scene, and then it was just like, we're not paying for this boat, and we're not paying to do a whole opera scene. We got the set for the house. Just smooth her around the house. There you go. It's cheap. It's effective. Come on, go. And as I said, like, I actually prefer it this way because it works better for this version of Bruce Wayne that he is.
Oh, yeah. Well, in the original script, though, as we've said, like Bruce Wayne is more like the Bruce Wayne you get in other films, isn't he? Yeah. He's not like this one.
He's more of a lad about town. But this one's like, no, he would be. This stands to his social awkwardness.
Oh, yeah. I think Tim Burton wanted a Batman he could kind of identify with a little bit.
Yeah. It kind of fits in as well. I just kept thinking that because, the producer of this was John Peters. So it's just like, he's just like, smooth him the Peters way. You don't spend any money on him. You bring him to the house and you just do it all there. It's cheap,
It worked for me.
Yeah. As we know as well, John Peters and Kim Basinger were a thing as well. So
Yes, they were indeed.
Back to the horse. In my well-prepared research I've just been looking at right this second, there was going to be, according to some random stranger on the internet, a scene where during Vicky's night at Wayne Manor, they would have gone horseback riding on the manor grounds.
Oh.
And there would also have been some other horse scene involving a chase and a horse. But they cut all horse scenes after Sean Young's mishap.
I can understand why. Yeah.
They cut out any real horse and instead just had a light-hearted horse story.
Oh, we know we've got that actually is a storyboard minute. The other horse scene. That's way later on in the film. We'll get to that in Jewtown. That's actually a pretty interesting. It wouldn't have worked at all in the film. So, but I am kind of desperate. Like, we'll get into that. Don't you worry about that.
Well, speaking of in the film, as the minute progresses, Alfred he shoots off to bed, and he tells them, "Oh, leave everything. I'll sort it in the morning."
Yeah.
And Bruce says nothing in response. That's cheeky. I mean, come on, this guy. He looks after you. He does everything. Pick up after yourself once.
Yeah, I'm really hoping
his house or whatever the hell this is. Come on.
I'm hoping that Vicki steps up and she's like, "Nah, we better do it. Come on."
At least rinse the dishes. Come on.
But it's always been my concern, that bit as well. It's just like, well, but there's my weird history of this scene is like I was, as an Irish child, was just happy to hear the term sack of old potatoes. So I was like, it's like
I just start salivating, Niall. Potatoes.
I was just like, I can relate to that.
But when I was around your house yesterday, you did literally have a sack of potatoes in the room.
See, people will think that is actually true. It was there for a reason. But yes, there was a sack of potatoes in my room. What do you want from me? But
that's killed me.
But that's the we see though with while Alfred's telling this story, Bruce is sitting properly face palming, like he's really really cringing of just like, oh my god, this is such an embarrassing story. But I mean, this story's winning him favor though. I think this is actually like, this is what's winning Vicki over. Is like, oh no, I get this old man's telling me about like how much of all the times he has as a child, and it makes him seem a bit more human and whatnot, Yeah,
but why would that win you over? This story about a young, reckless Bruce injuring his butler.
It could be this kind of thing. Like Alfred always embarrasses Bruce, and he has done since childhood. And this story was actually Bruce was trying to kill Alfred, of just like trying to run him over with the horse. He's just like, I'm sick of this guy telling everyone how much of a loser I am.
You're right, though. I mean, Vicki, she sees how much Alfred loves Bruce, and vice versa. But as a viewer, I don't get that Bruce loves Alfred back. Like, it doesn't really come across too much, because all he's concerned about here is the fact that he wouldn't be able to find his socks without his trusty servant.
No, I do think that I actually like the relationship between them. I think it's I think like it doesn't need to be said any more than that. It is like that's more of a Bruce's playful, casual, like I couldn't find my socks without him. But it's just even that speaks to being like if you take that literally, it's like no, this man has complete. I trust him with everything. Like everything I am, I depend on Alfred for.
That's what all oppressors say. You're a reactionary defender of the bourgeoisie.
It's like, will you stop pushing in your friggin' Marxist manifesto on us?
God damn it, Alfred's one of the people.
No, but I actually think I think I mentioned it like one of the early on minutes. It's one of the bits that I actually like in Batman versus Superman is that for once you see Bruce giving Alfred like a cup of tea. And like it's just he's done it, and Alfred's like, "Oh, thank you," and he's brought in Bruce's. But it seems like more like they're friends there. And because some instances you will see that like Alfred as butler, and he's just the servant, and like there's things like you see it in some of Jeff Loeb's thing, like the Long Halloween and things like that, where Alfred's and Haunted Night was one I remember, where Alfred's very sidelined, and Bruce will literally storm in, rip off his clothes, leave them lying. Alfred will be wandering behind after him, and he's very much just a servant. And, like I never liked that, but like I think the Keaton and Michael Gough, their relationship, I think it actually works quite well because you see, in other scenes we'll get to later on where they do have a rapport, and there is a very much like there's a bit even where like Alfred's it's one of the later scenes again, but Alfred's leaving the room and Bruce is like, Alfred, thank you. Like he has a real like. It feels a bit more like he genuinely is grateful to this guy. Like
it's not a bad mix, is it?
Yeah, but no, like it's not quite lovable sidekick Michael Caine about Alfred, but like I like the relationship. I think it worked quite well. Anyway,
no, that was good. I was just pausing because I thought someone was coming in with something else.
Glasses. Does Bruce Wayne wear glasses? Have I just missed that?
No, he does sometimes put them on, but we weren't sure if he really needs them.
Let's go into a short-sighted
Batman. Yeah, short-sighted Batman. Unless he's doing Wing Chun, like Kung Fu, very in your face, then he's going to have problems.
But bats are traditionally short-sighted.
You know what? How did we not consider this? That could be a little joke.
But he's got fantastic hearing, this guy.
Yeah. Oh, that should be a little gag that's like on running throughout the film. Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Can you imagine like Kit's secretly wanting like a David Cronenberg-esque Batman, where he's literally turning he morphs into a giant bat. It's like, I mean, there is Manbat, the villain, so you can't get that anyway. But.
Who I only discovered through playing the video games, as not a huge comic guy. I was like, what the hell is going on in this storyline?
Oh no, I'm like, Kirk Langstrom, the Manbat. I remember him specifically because he's the first episode on Leather Wings of the Batman animated series. The first ever episode is Batman versus Man-Bat, which is an odd one to start with. It's an odd villain to be like, this is the guy.
Yeah, it's a tough sell to people who aren't big into Batman, I would say. Batman Man-Bat? Nah, I'm out.
There's not much else. One other thing in this I've noticed is that Bruce Wayne's he's rocking. We're saying that Alfred's got like, he's got he's. The bow ties off, the shirt's undone, he's in the cardi, all that stuff. Bruce Wayne's like, he's not getting the tie's still done up right to the tip of the neck there. It's like, nope, I don't lower my tie for anybody.
Well, the ladies are crazy about a sharp dressed man, so he's trying to look good.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of his tie as far as ties go. He's so drab. I mean, I suppose he is Batman. He's not the most colourful. Colourful ties are more Joker's thing, I suppose. But
oh yeah. It's very of the time, this tie, though.
Yeah. Yes, maybe it's... I'm not such a fan of that era's colour scheme.
In general, just anything from that.
Look at the decor in this whole place as well. The oven is beige, the tie is beige, the table's brown.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of beige, I'll be honest. Not too much a fan of Vicky's attire, but she's got lovely hair, if I do say so. Hey, look at that. Look at the volume.
It's much better than the Tom Hanks style that we're seeing from Bruce Wayne.
I knew it looked like something, and I hadn't put my finger on it, but that is it. It's Tom Hanks.
I think it's why it works so well as Bruce Wayne is. They'd never suspect Tom Hanks to be Batman, because Tom Hanks's thing is boring man put in exciting situation. That's his forte. Every single film I can think of, he's played a boring man who's been put in an exciting situation, and that's the entire point of the film. And so, boring man by day, even by, billionaire standards, he's a bit of a boring billionaire. But
oh yeah,
Bat by night, he's
now I want to see Tom Hanks doing that though.
He's stolen Tom Hanks's thing, as far as I could see. Tom Hanks could be a bit annoyed, really. Maybe Tom Hanks was originally cast. Come on, that's your thing. Did they write to Tom Hanks and say, "Dear Tom, okay, if we can't get you, damn it, we'll dress Michael Keaton up like you."
Sadly, not from our research, but Tom, if you're listening and you've got something to share, get in touch.
Also, Tom, I didn't mean anything when I called you boring.
We love you, Tom. We love you, really. Well, something I don't love is that the minute basically ends now, doesn't it? With Vicki saying how Alfred reminds her of her own grandfather, and she's going to tell us how, and that's it. The minute wraps up.
Of course, when she mentions Bruce's family, she says, "What did she say? What about your family or something?"
It's the next minute, though.
Is it? Oh, that's why I couldn't find it. Okay, well, I'll save that cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger, yes. Make sure you tune in on Friday. Do you guys have anything else for the minute? I've just got one note, which not particularly thrilling, I'll be perfectly honest, but in the original draft, yet again, I'm the original draft guy, aren't I? This is my thing. This is where they come back from their date to the theatre, and Vicki is very drunk. But Bruce is perfectly fine in the draft. He hasn't been drinking, seems to be the implication. And I know a lot of versions of Bruce don't drink.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure about this Bruce. Now, I get my answer coming up, so I'm not going to go there too much. But at this point, I'm unsure if he's drinking and he can just handle it because he's tough, or if he doesn't touch the booze.
Yeah. Well, it's the classic. The classic thing is the comic book Batman is supposed to be. He's a man who drinks ginger ale and pretends it's champagne. This was one of his things to mention in The Dark Knight Returns, which would have been influential in this. But no, they don't really put that. And it seems in this film that I think he is knocking them back. But that bit you were talking about in the original draft is essentially in the film. It's just a bit they've just shifted it to later on.
Oh yeah, it's slightly different, slightly cut. Yeah.
Didn't the Soviets? I'm not sure if this is urban legend, but experiment with a pill you could take before drinking, so their spies could stay up late drinking with people, and the other people would get absolutely hammered and tell their stories, and the Soviet spies themselves would stay sober.
I have heard of this.
The urban legend said that they got just as drunk, but it prevented their hangover, and now these pills are marketed as hangover prevention cure things. But
well, I know a typical hangover cure in Russia is to, I swear, well, this is what I'd heard anyway from a Russian. So I don't know if he's winding me up, but it's in between like vodka, you eat like some fish or a pickle or something. That's quite normal. It's like a sort of Russian version of tapas or something. But they said, if you drink some of the pickle juice, that'll help with the hangover. Which doesn't sound that crazy because it's quite salty. And apparently you crave salty things, don't you?
Well, if you want to bring around a jar of pickle juice the next time we get together, John, and try it out.
Pickle juice between every drink, though. I might just find myself drinking less.
I think it's meant to be in the morning, but maybe it is between every drink. I don't know. He didn't actually clarify that.
So I recently tried on a stag do. Tried to do the old a pint of water in between every pint thing.
Oh, I do that quite a lot.
That didn't work for me. It was still absolutely hammered. So
that's because you had 40 pints. Probably.
Yeah, this was all day drinking.
Probably flushed all of the salt out of your system. That's why you need pickle juice as well.
We should probably wrap the minute up, shouldn't we? We've hit all the points.
So what I was going to ask Kit about, some of his history with the film and stuff, but I guess we can leave that the next minute because we're breaching into 40 minutes territory. So
yeah, we'll look into that on Friday's episode. So make sure you check us out all over the internet. We're everywhere. You can't escape us. We're all over. all over your feed. Facebook, the Batminute89 Listener Society, is the number one place to chat to everybody, bat chat. And tweet us. We do enjoy a good tweet. And we're always posting on Instagram, so check that out too. Kit, have you got anything to plug? Your music again?
Once again, I shall plug my music. If you go on SoundCloud, Bandcamp, Facebook, all the rest of those musically things, search for RATBitKit, and you will find the band I am in. We play loud, messy accordion punk music. It's not what you will like if you like accordions, but you might like it if you like punk. We'll see.
That's the beauty of it. It's fantastic. Do check it out. And join us again on Friday, where we'll have a minute 33 of Tim Burton's Batman. Next time, strolling down memory lane as our dynamic dating duo don't discuss doing the dishes. Will our lonesome Lothario lash out more liquor for a lovely lady? For the last time, we'll noodle on the whole kit and caboodle. Friday, same Bat Pod.
Different Bat Minute.